When I installed solar panels, my neighbor and HOA filed a lawsuit claiming they were too shiny and dangerous to planes. My own sister joined them, hoping I'd be forced to sell. I hired an expert, proved they lied, countersued for defamation, and when I won, the judge ordered my sister and my neighbor to cover all my legal fees. I put the entire court judgment in a frame and hung it next to my front door. I never expected to go to war with my own family and neighbors just for trying to lower my electric bill. But that's exactly what happened. My name's Nate. I live in Midlothian, Virginia, a suburb right outside Richmond. Nice enough place. Rows of well-kept homes, trimmed hedges, American flags on porches. We've got an HOA that's always been a little too proud of itself, but until last year, I figured they were just nosy retirees with too much time. In the summer of 2023, I finally made the leap I'd been planning for years. I hired Dominion Solar Solutions to install a full solar panel system on my roof. My electric bills had been murder, and the local incentives were about to expire. Plus, with the way the world was going, it just made sense. The installation took 3 days. When it was done, the system looked sharp. Modern, low-profile panels. The kind that absorbs light, not the old shiny kind from decades ago. I stood on my front lawn, proud as hell. I didn't realize that pride would soon turn into pure rage. 2 mornings later, I found a yellow envelope stuck in my door. Notice of HOA violation. I opened it, confused. The violation? My solar panels were allegedly too reflective and posed a potential hazard to low-flying aircraft and neighboring property safety. At first I laughed. It had to be a mistake. My panels were designed specifically not to reflect sunlight dangerously. I figured it was just some generic HOA form they send out automatically. But then came the letterhead at the bottom. Complaint submitted by Carl Richter, 3125 Ashton Brook Lane. Carl Richter. My across-the-street neighbor. A retired Air Force officer who treated the HOA like it was his second career. This was a guy who once ticketed someone's Halloween decorations for being too garish. I thought, of course it's Carl. I marched over to his house to clear things up. He answered the door wearing his usual pressed khakis and a Semper Fi ball cap. Carl, what's this about my panels? He didn't even blink. They're dangerous. I can't have sunlight reflecting into my living room every morning. Plus, they could confuse pilots. Carl, there's no flight path over us. Doesn't matter. It's a safety issue. And the HOA agrees. He shut the door in my face. I was pissed. But what happened next truly broke me. That evening, I checked my email. The HOA had forwarded a copy of the formal complaint. There were 2 names on it. Carl Richter. Denise Holloway. My own sister. Denise lived 2 houses down. She bought her place 5 years ago after her divorce. She used to watch my kids when they were little. We had her over every Christmas and Thanksgiving. We'd gone through our parents' funerals together. I called her immediately. Denise, what the hell are you doing? I'm doing what's best for the neighborhood. Her voice was cold. Too calm. Those panels are going to lower everyone's property values. I warned you not to make big changes without talking to people first. So instead of talking to me, you joined a complaint to force me to take them down? If you can't afford to fix this, maybe you should consider selling before the fines stack up. That's when it hit me. She'd been pestering me to sell for over a year. Wanted to flip my house and help me out of the headache of owning it. I always thought she was just trying to play real estate mogul. Now I knew the truth. She wanted me out. And Carl was helping her do it. I refused to remove the panels. That's when the HOA, with Carl and Denise leading the charge, filed a lawsuit. Their claim, my solar panels violated community safety standards and endangered both neighbors and aircraft. They wanted the court to force me to 1. Remove the entire solar system. 2. Pay HOA fines. 3. Cover their legal fees. When the papers arrived, I felt my stomach drop. I was looking at thousands in potential losses, maybe tens of thousands if I lost. Selling might not even cover it. But something in me snapped. No. They don't get to bully me out of my home. I hired Heather McBride, a local attorney who had a reputation for standing up to aggressive HOAs. She listened to my story and leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. They think you'll fold because most people do. But they've overplayed their hand. Heather immediately called in a solar energy expert, Dr. Ravi Patel. He inspected the panels, took light readings at all hours of the day, and reviewed FAA guidelines for glare and flight path safety. Your panels reflect less light than a standard window, he told me. This lawsuit is garbage. Heather also dug into HOA rules and found something golden. They'd approved solar installations in 2019 as long as they didn't exceed certain reflectivity, which mine didn't. But it got better. One of my other neighbors, Tom, approached me quietly. Nate, Carl's been telling people you're bankrupt and trying to dodge taxes. He said you're a safety risk to the whole street. Heather's eyes lit up. That's defamation. We're countersuing. It took 8 months for the court date. Carl walked in like he was heading to a job interview. Denise dressed like she was at Sunday church. I sat at my table, hands steady. Heather flipped through the giant binder of evidence we'd prepared. The plaintiffs argued first. Carl swore he was concerned for community safety. Claimed he'd seen pilots divert because of my panels. Total lie. Denise claimed she'd gotten complaints from other neighbors about blinding light and lower property values. Then Heather stood. Your Honor, we have FAA documentation that this neighborhood is not under any low-altitude flight paths. My client's panels reflect less light than his neighbor's standard windows. And as for property values? Zillow data shows no decline since installation. Then she dropped the bomb. We also have witness testimony and digital records showing the plaintiffs intentionally spread falsehoods about my client's finances and character to manipulate public opinion and force a sale. This is defamation. Dr. Patel testified, explaining the science. Tom testified. Even 2 other neighbors came forward to confirm the lies Denise and Carl had spread. By the end of the day, Carl's face was gray. Denise looked like she might pass out. The judge didn't just dismiss their case. He ruled it was malicious litigation and that they'd engaged in defamation to try to force me to sell my home under duress. I am awarding the defendant full recovery of legal fees and additional damages for reputational harm and emotional distress, the judge declared. Total awarded, $128,600. Carl had to sell 2 of his prized cars, a '67 Mustang and a vintage Corvette, to cover his share. Denise took out a second mortgage. A month later, she showed up at my door. Please, Nate. We're family. I didn't think it would go this far. Let me at least pay you back over time. No, Denise. You already made your choice. She started crying. I didn't care. I had the entire judgment framed, every page. Hung it up right next to my front door. Now, every time Carl or Denise passes by, they have to see it. And my solar panels? Still shining. For a while after the ruling, things got quiet. Too quiet. Carl stopped his daily patrols around the neighborhood. Denise avoided me completely. I figured they'd learned their lesson. I was wrong. About a month after the judgment, I started noticing strange things. First, my trash bins kept disappearing on collection day. I'd roll them out to the curb like always, and by the time the garbage truck came, they were gone. Found them dumped in the retention pond behind the neighborhood twice. Then came the anonymous complaints. The county inspector showed up claiming he'd gotten reports that I was illegally collecting rainwater without permits. I showed him my approved setup and the permit on file. He apologized and left. 2 days later, animal control arrived. Someone reported my dog, Max, as aggressive and dangerous. Max is a 12-year-old golden retriever who's never so much as barked at anyone. Heather warned me. They're trying to harass you into moving. They lost in court, so now they're playing dirty. That's when I got an unexpected visitor. Mark Ferguson, another neighbor 3 houses down. We'd never been close. He kept to himself mostly, but he had a reputation for not tolerating HOA nonsense. Nate, he said, standing awkwardly on my porch. Look, I know we've never been friends, but I heard about the judgment. And what they're doing to you now. It's not right. You think Carl and Denise are behind this? He nodded. I can't prove it, but I'm part of the HOA board now. Carl's not supposed to have influence after the lawsuit, but he's still got people loyal to him. Loyal? Old-timers. Guys he served with. They think you disrespected him. And Denise has been whispering about how you ruined her financially. She's making herself out to be the victim. That's when Mark handed me a flash drive. I've been recording the last few HOA meetings. You should listen. I spent that whole night listening. Carl wasn't just quietly fuming. He was actively instructing board members to watch my property for new violations. Denise had shown up to a meeting claiming I was building unapproved structures and had illegal modifications. They were laying the groundwork to fine me into submission. The worst part? Denise had been trying to get the board to start foreclosure proceedings based on non-compliance. She wanted to force a lien onto my property. Heather was furious. This isn't just harassment anymore. This is conspiracy. If we catch them filing false liens or fines, we can take this to the county and the state attorney. I gave Mark the go-ahead to keep collecting evidence. Meanwhile, Heather filed a cease and desist order against the HOA, warning them against issuing any fines or taking further action without verified, lawful cause. Any attempt to pursue a lien or foreclosure without clear legal standing would result in another lawsuit, this time potentially criminal. That stopped the HOA board in its tracks. But Carl and Denise weren't done. 2 weeks later, I woke up to find my garage door spray-painted with the words, "Get out. Traitor." I called the police. They took photos and wrote up a report, but without witnesses, they couldn't make an arrest. That evening, Denise had the nerve to walk over while the cops were still there. "See, Nate? This is what happens when you turn the neighborhood against you." "Are you admitting something, Denise?" "No. Just saying actions have consequences." She smiled like it was all some game. That was it. I'd had enough. "Heather, let's hit them where it really hurts." Using the recordings, Heather filed a new civil suit, this time not just against Carl and Denise but also against the HOA board members who'd participated in the conspiracy. Charges: harassment, conspiracy to defraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, property damage, for the spray paint and tampering with my rainwater system, but we didn't stop there. Heather contacted the Virginia State Corporation Commission and filed a formal complaint against the HOA itself. If proven, the board could be dissolved, and the HOA placed under county management until a new, neutral board could be elected. The suit made waves. Several neighbors who'd stayed quiet during the first trial came forward. They admitted Carl had pressured them to sign false complaints. Some had text messages. One even had a voicemail. Denise's voice. "Once we force him out, the board can rezone his lot. I'll buy it for a steal." By the time our second lawsuit hit the courts, the neighborhood was in chaos. Carl tried to keep up appearances, mowing his lawn in perfect stripes, hosting little HOA watch meetings. But fewer people showed up now. Word had spread that Heather and I had ironclad evidence, and were willing to burn the whole HOA down if we had to. "Denise?" She stopped looking me in the eye. I heard she'd started calling herself a victim of judicial overreach on social media. She told anyone who'd listen that I was dragging down the community and financially ruining my own family. But none of that saved them. Heather laid it all out: the recordings, the false reports, the threats, the conspiracy to lien my property and force a sale. We had 9 witnesses. Even one former HOA board member who'd resigned in protest testified that Carl and Denise ran the HOA like a personal revenge club. Carl's lawyer tried to argue that this was just passionate community involvement. The judge wasn't buying it. This wasn't passionate, the judge said. It was predatory. He ruled in my favor on every count. Carl, Denise, and 3 other board members were held personally liable for damages. Total judgment, $417,000. The HOA itself was fined an additional $50,000 and placed under county supervision pending reorganization. The judge also barred Carl and Denise from serving on any HOA or neighborhood committee for the next 10 years. Carl sold his house within 3 months. Had no choice. His military pension and what was left of his car collection couldn't cover the damages. Denise? She tried to negotiate, begged even. Nate, please. Don't bankrupt me. I'll lose everything. So did I, Denise. I lost my peace. My reputation. My kids got bullied. You wanted me to lose my house. Now it's your turn. She had to sell her home too. Moved in with some distant cousin in Roanoke. She doesn't speak to me anymore. That's fine. I don't miss her. The 3 HOA board members who got caught up in this, they either moved away or resigned in disgrace. I took the $417,000 judgment and did 3 things. 1. Paid Heather every dime she earned, and then some. 2. Upgraded my solar system to a state-of-the-art Tesla Powerwall setup. 3. Built a legal defense fund for other homeowners in the area who might face harassment from future HOA bullies. And of course, I kept the original court judgment framed by my front door. Right next to it, I hung a new frame, the second judgment. Bigger. Bolder. Whenever anyone comes to my house, they see them both. The price of betrayal. Even now, the new HOA board, with Mark Ferguson as president, uses my case as a warning. Don't go after your neighbors out of greed. It won't end well. And every sunny morning, my panels soak up the light, quiet, powerful, and untouchable. Max the golden retriever is still living his best life, too. Solar-powered backyard lights let him patrol at night like the king he is.